Welcome to Homeschooling for Spirituality. The Flow is a delightful mix of insight, divine inspiration, and humor, where wisdom meets earthiness to help your ongoing spiritual growth and transformation. Follow the flow of enlightenment and explore everything spiritual through the deepest self-inquiry, as student Lisa Berry asks master spiritual teacher G.P. Walsh the kinds of questions you would ask an elder, a wise man, or a sage, and receive direct, simple, comprehensive, and deeply human lessons and teachings. From transcending the experience of separation, releasing old conditioned patterns and wounds, and alleviating suffering, to demystifying esoteric practices and revealing one's true purpose and innate freedom. Welcome to the flow of enlightenment. Transformation is all there is. Oh, welcome everyone to the Flow of Enlightenment. I'm here with G.P. Walsh. Hello, G.P.
Hey, Lisa. It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. It's lesson day. I feel like it's gather around to get you. This is like for people to come to listen to the show and call in to ask their questions, where they leave the show going, oh my gosh, what's going to happen this week now that I just learned this? You know?
Sorry,
today is
a disruptor.
Yes, actually, that's a great word, and we're going to find out why. This one is a very common. Oh, it's like I actually would like to see if anybody in the whole world who has never said this before. It's not fair. You know, the "It's Not Fair" show. Oh goodness. So, GP, I thought of this one because the "it's not fair" can come from, and we're going to walk through all of them, it can come from an ego thing, like what you had said before, but, you know, we want things to work in our favor, and that could be from a selfish place or a complete, I myself, Lisa, I get in so much pain because it's not fair that the animals are suffering, you know, so it's not always like a selfish, but there's still a thread there. And so we are going to find the thread of "it's not fair" with you. And so when you first hear somebody, when you, like you, GP, wandering around the world, and you hear that, what's the first thing why people usually say it's not fair?
What it means is things are not going the way I think they should. I mean, that's all there is to the ego, right? When I say the ego, it's like this arrogance or something like that. Arrogance is just one aspect of it. The ego is simply my own investment in my own ideas as to how things should be. And when life contradicts them, then life is unfair, right? But I'm the one who set up the rule, right? And somehow I think that things are somehow supposed to conform to what I think is fair. But if we actually really examine it, we find whatever we think is fair is really quite provincial. It's based on my own preferences, my own conveniences, my own comfort, and that of those immediately around me and my culture. Right? So I'm set up that I should expect certain things from my culture, or my culture is better than your culture.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
You're getting the benefit that I want, right? So something obviously is wrong with the universe.
Yes.
Because I was supposed to get that, not you. I was supposed to win, not you. Right? I was supposed to get the guy or the girl, not you. Right? So it's not fair. They're supposed to live forever, and they're supposed to die. That's not fair. Right? It's always an argument with what is. Always.
Yes. An argument with what is. Okay, so that's the tough one. That's where so many people are saying, but like I can imagine me when I was little going, but it really isn't fair. Let me tell you, let me argue why. It's really, really not fair.
That's right.
Asking that brought me to this thought today is, okay, we know truth. Truth is, it is timeless. It is never not truth. It's all those beautiful things that you say, which you say it much nicer than I do. But is fair isn't truth.
No, truth is obviously the model of fairness. I mean, if truth is the truth, that's kind of it, right? You don't argue with that.
Yeah.
How can you? Right.
Right.
Right. You can't argue with that. So there's the baseline. But we do argue with that, right?
Yes.
Because things simply don't go the way we want. This is so hard for us to just kind of grasp. And it's not as if, on a certain level you can say, okay, that guy scored, I didn't, right? That guy was born with athletic gifts and I wasn't. That guy's smarter than I am. That girl's prettier than I am, right? Now, all of that stuff is our relative measurements anyway. But yes, if somebody's born and can shoot baskets and they have, and they make $10 million a year and I'm 5'7" with no athletic ability, I could say, that's not fair. That's not fair. Why don't I get that, right? But yeah, this isn't a dismissal that there are certain differences, right? But what makes us think that somehow all of this is supposed to work out in the way that I think it's supposed to work out? And it's about me, when I think it's working out, it has nothing to do with the truth. I'm not even interested in the truth.
Right, yes.
Right? At this point, I'm like the little kid arguing endlessly of why it isn't fair. Right? And he won't accept an answer. The only answer he'll accept is, you're absolutely right, it's not fair. Here, you get what you want. That's the only answer he wants to hear.
Right, yes, yes.
There's nothing in there that wants to debate this, to really go, oh, I see, this is how it works. None of that's present, right?
Right. That's a very well-behaved little kid, then.
Yeah, that's no little kid I've ever met.
I feel much better now. I can see why even I'm not getting my way, but yes, okay.
Yes.
Well,
okay, it's very
does
clear
it start
now. It's a very mature place to get to, right?
Yes. And does it start then when we are young? Do we start our preferences of what we think is fair or not when we're little, before we even know?
Well, yeah, our preferences they're partially innate, right? And the ones that are innate are harmless. I prefer this flavor of ice cream over that flavor of ice cream. For coconut milk ice cream over cow's milk ice cream, or I like the color red. Those are irrelevant simply because they don't create any suffering. They're just they're completely harmless and innocuous.
Yes.
But then there's other preferences we have that are inherent. They're not built in. Sorry, they're not inherent. They're cultural, right? Like, you should look a certain way, you should act a certain way, you should be a certain way. And when anything is imposed like that, the preference becomes a rule rather than a preference. If it's a preference, it's like, you get your preference, you don't. But when it becomes a rule, now it becomes enforced. And if that rule is broken, well, it's not fair, or it's immoral, or it's sinful. Just all sorts of judgments get heaped on it, because it's being judged from a particular point of view. And I can get extremely selfish, and about me, and anything that doesn't work out to my favor isn't fair. And we've heard plenty of people like that. Sometimes they even run governments.
Yes, sometimes. No, I want to highlight, I like that part, that preferences aren't rules to be enforced. They really are just a preference. And it's making me laugh. My sister will probably kill me for saying this, but I'm going to share it anyways. When we were little, her preference was not to lose, and I didn't care either way. I just wanted to play, but I always ended up winning. And so she would say, that's not fair. So it actually became a new rule that I wouldn't allow myself to win. Or then we actually started playing games. There's a game called the Ungame. There's no real loser in there, because then nobody feels, that it's not fair. And so we start living lives differently. And then, I grew up making sure, I don't want anybody to feel like they're a loser, or that they're not good enough. So this can really impact our lives when we think this, it's not fair. It can actually, if their ego can swap it out, they can actually hold themselves back from living their fullest and their truth.
Of course. I mean, the extreme of that is becoming a victim. Life isn't fair. You drop out. You give up.
Oh.
Now I'm a victim of life, right? Because somehow I got the idea that it was supposed to deliver me these things. And of course, there's a lot of traditions, and I mean the whole law of attraction thing is it's supposed to do that, right? And if I just do the right thing, think the right thoughts, the universe then is just going to hand me what I want, right? The genie of the universe. Oh, what nonsense! What utter nonsense! I mean, freedom comes when I acknowledge I have preferences. Everybody does, but I'm not attached to them. My happiness doesn't depend on whether they come or not. So now I'm not in a fight with life anymore. Life can just be what it is, and as a result, I'm open to all sorts of really wonderful surprises happening. Right? But if I have my preference, I have my sights locked on something, and something else comes along of equal or better value, I go, nah, I dismiss it.
Oh, you can miss out.
I'm not open. I'm not open to experiencing. I'm not. I don't. There's no trust in life. There's no faith. There's no curiosity. I mean, it really can be quite debilitating.
So that's so. Now I'm just stringing this together. If I've got this right, victims. Then, if you slide into the ego of victimhood, they don't trust. They're lacking that safety to trust. So this really extends. It's not just like somebody throwing a temper tantrum. This can really put so what about the person who says this always happens to me? Are they thinking that that's fair now because they're like, well, of course it's fair because it always happens to me, or is that?
Oh no, heavens no! It's still not fair. It's just always happening, right?
Right.
Yeah, but you can see the only position you can make that statement from is the position of powerlessness. The position that I can't do anything about this. It's out of my hands. I'm just the victim of circumstances. Poor me. Right? Everybody else gets it. That greedy bastard over there got it, but he's a greedy bastard, right? Obviously, if he hadn't been a greedy bastard, he wouldn't have it, right? I mean, there's all sorts of moral things. I mean, oh my God, it's so elaborate, the things we come up to justify this idea that somehow life owes us something. That is, owes us to show up the way we want it to. Right? Yes. I mean, the most freeing thing you can do is drop the idea that you're entitled to anything.
Yeah. Entitled and owing. Right now I'm so thinking like when somebody young passes away and we say, like, as we believe that they were owed a longer life, owed, not to die a certain way at such a young age. How does one find? Are they finding their fairness in it, or are they just no? It's not about fairness at all at that point if they've lost somebody that way.
Well, of course, the experience of the younger one who has passed on, they've got a very different experience going on, right? So it's all my own subjectivity. They should have stayed around longer, right? I wanted them to stay around longer. And that's real. You do want them to stay around longer, right? Okay. But is it unfair that they died early? No, it has nothing to do with fairness. No. It's simply a way of coming to terms with the way life actually is, right? And life is neither fair nor unfair. It just is what it is. And sometimes people live to be a ripe old age and you wish they hadn't.
It's not fair. That bastard was alive till he was 120.
This bastard's still alive? Oh my God! Really? Still making a mess of everything he touches? Or equally, this one died way too young. This was just too sad. They shouldn't have. It shouldn't have happened. But what's the norm? That means we've got some idea of what normal should be, right? And our idea of normal is what we've decided it's going to be. Look around. Life has no normal. There are some critters
Yes.
that their entire life lasts about 3 hours in the ocean. You know, they're born, they might get eaten, or they reproduce and they die. That's it. That's the whole life.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, the baby turtle.
It's fair to them.
Right? Breaking out of the egg and on their way to the ocean, and they're scooped up and swallowed by the seagull.
Yes, and the
Don't
seagull's
look around,
quite happy.
The seagull's great, and he has to have the little baby turtle, or the seagull is going to die. This is the interconnectedness with life that none of us want to face. We think somehow it's supposed to work differently. And that's where I say, don't think so. I'm kind of like saying that life holds all the cards, and it's my job to harmonize with life. It has no obligation to harmonize with my ego.
Oh, I like that. It's my job to harmonize with life. Oh, there was a question there, and I just lost it. But because I was like thinking, oh wow, because if it's a matter of us, it's our job to harmonize with life, which means we need to start singing another tune. We need to start seeing that differently. Is it a mental? Is it an enlightenment moment, or is it a headspace thing to do that?
Oh, it's absolutely an awakening moment, right? When you stop fighting life, because the only way you do that is you have to drop out of your ego. You have to recognize that the way you think things should be is delusional. There's no foundation for it whatsoever. When you look at what things are, and you say it shouldn't be that way, I mean, on what basis do you make a statement like that? I mean, really.
Okay.
You're cultural, or, it's your own preference. I don't like it. That's accurate, right? That it shouldn't be that way? Well, it is that way. And I know it should be that way because it is that way.
Right. Oh, that makes so much sense. Well, what we're actually going to do, GP, is when we come back, we have some callers. So they're going to call in with their questions about how to deal with the things that they have been experiencing in their lives, which they think are not fair. So when we come back, guys, we have some live questions around what's not fair and how to fix it. Well, yeah, how to feel okay with it when we come back on the Flow of Enlightenment.
How to fix me.
Yeah, fix me, GP.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
I'm so not good enough.
Fail.
They'll judge me.
I'm afraid
So others
it's
are
already
doing
been
it.
done.
Who are you not to fully express who you are, to be your warrior of light and do business from your fierce, aligned energy? I'm Rosalind Fung, host of Activate Your Soulgasmic Business here on OMTimes Radio. Let's get your business turned on to the next level. I invite you to hop on a business soul alignment discovery call with me at rosalindfung.com and let's monetize in your soul mission. Go to ROSALYNF as in fun, UNG.com.
I am Fidel Nshambo. I was born in a city called the Bukavu in the Congo. We were a loving family, and then, boom, everything that I had disappeared in a single day. People think that when you are a refugee and they resettle you to America, and all your problems are done. They don't understand that that's the beginning of everything. I was not born a refugee. I was made one.
It's time we welcome refugee families with open arms. Learn more at embracerefugees.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Ooh, and what a great way to actually go into this. Welcome, everybody, back to the Flow of Enlightenment. We're here. I'm Lisa Berry, and I'm here with GP Walsh. And I'm jumping back in on the It's Not Fair, because if you're listening to the commercials there's some, we're not just talking about, that's not fair, I, didn't get the raise I thought, or actually that can be big too, but there are big, like, country cultural stuff. And I know we've got our calls, we're going to take this question. And so just before we go that, I thought, GP, if you could just touch on that, when we're so frustrated and hurt by it's not fair about the big cultural stuff, the world stuff, how did we settle that?
Well, you have to recognize that what we're talking about are cultural values.
Values.
A war that makes a refugee, right? The people who are making the war feel quite justified in their position, right? And they'll say, well, it wasn't fair, but it had to happen, right?
Yes.
And they happen to be the dominant power, so their view is what dominates. And we can do this all the time. I mean, it's not fair when GM moves a plant from Pontiac, Michigan to Mexico and completely devastates a community, right?
Yeah.
We can look at things. I don't want people to think that everything is that you should never say, that you should never take a moral position, right? I mean, Gandhi, the unfairness of the occupation, the colonization of the British Empire in India, Gandhi refused to stomach it, right? And as a result, he basically managed to set the country free. So this isn't, we have to discern what is simply between a trite individual preference, that I feel stepped upon, what I need to get, and a very deep underpinning moral structure, how we treat animals. I won't eat meat because the animal industry is one of the most horrific and brutal. It's just unthinkable that humanity could be so brutal and thoughtless.
Yes.
And yet we go pick out our hamburger and don't think anything of it because we're not aware of it. The moment anybody becomes aware of it, they become completely outraged about it, but they won't hear it. They just won't hear it. And that kind of moral outrage, it's not a question of fear, of fair or not. It's a question of values. What matters more?
Okay. I like that distinguishing difference between, it's not about fair, it is about morals and values. And I'm really, thank you for bringing up those ones, because those are the tough ones. But it's how we handle even the little ones in our lives. So I'm so glad that we have a caller here today. Suzanne is going to join us. And I can't even imagine what any question anybody's going to bring. So I'm really curious and excited to hear this. And Susanna, if you're there, we'll bring you on.
Yes.
Hello, Susanna.
Hi, GP. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. GP, Susanna made a comment on the Facebook group, and if you're not a part of that group, we'd love to have you there. So look us up there on Facebook. It's GP Walsh, Spiritual Teacher. And Susanna, you made a comment like, yeah, I had a few of those It's Not Fairs this week. So we're so happy that you're able to call in and say, what would GP say about this? So here you go.
I'm aware that I'm going to sound like a teenager, and that it's not on the level of Gandhi. It's more on the level of why don't I have a boyfriend? So I've just been noticing in the last couple of weeks for sure that there's been a lot of envy and a lot of anger. And I've surprised myself at how immature, I have been behaving privately, not openly to anyone, but just noticing that when someone else got this really gorgeous boyfriend who I had sort of been connecting with a little bit before, and then he ended up choosing her, and I went back to being like a 12-year-old of really feeling like this isn't fair, and then freaking out about turning 40 and being, oh gosh, when am I going to find my partner? And the only way I've been able to handle this kind of jealousy and rage that's been happening inside is every time the thought comes up, is just going, I'm not going to entertain that thought. I'm just not going to give it too much attention. But it's still there under the surface, and I just what could I be doing about it?
Well, yes, it is. Yeah, for most of us, we're all kind of stuck in that prepubescent period. I'm afraid, right? Because we haven't developed a mature way to deal with disappointment, right? It's not that it's unfair. I mean, he made a choice, right? And it wasn't you, and you would have preferred it to have been you. It's neither fair nor not fair. It has nothing to do with fairness. It's just our disappointment of being drawn to something and not getting it. And we all have to learn how to deal with that, because that's life. This is going to happen. And you could probably think back on your lives when somebody wanted you to choose them and you didn't. So it's never always one direction, right?
No, not at all.
And so what it comes down to is, how do I actually deal with my own sense of disappointment? And what it triggers in us is a sense of powerlessness, right, which is the thing we fear most. Because the fact is, you were powerless. You couldn't make him choose you. You had no power whatsoever. Yes. So you simply had to accept, without an argument, things as they unfolded, just as they did. Now, you can look at it really carefully and say, here's the big one, is this a reflection on me? Right? Because then the mind goes off, oh my God, I'm going on 40? It's going to be the rest of my life. The mind is going to turn this into a Cecil B. DeMille epic, right? It's going to be the journey in the wilderness for 40 years, right? And this always happens to me, which of course it didn't always happen to you, right? But the mind will do that. Oh, it always happens to me, because the mind wants to reinforce how unfair the universe is and how I deserve so much better, right? And so it's creating this wonderful spin for you. None of it's true, right? No, but remember, the reason we're doing that is to try to avoid feeling the reality of our own vulnerability. And the way we do that is through anger, rage, jealousy, all these things, right, that keep us from just quietly going, oof, I lost that one. And just, I had no control over it. There was nothing I could do. Right? Because that's the truth. Now, notice, to just even hear me saying that does something in the heart. It's something relaxes, right? Because the fact of the matter is, I can... Yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry. I'm reading.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's because I consider myself someone who has easy access to vulnerability, but actually, this I can't think of the word. It challenges. It actually challenges my access to vulnerability, because this one really brings up my ego.
Right. Yeah. It's not that you don't have access to the vulnerability. It's just in this area, it's still very well defended.
Yeah.
That's all. Again, it's not even, it's not all or nothing. It's like, oh, I thought I had access, and now I know I don't. And so now all of a sudden you have this other story about where you are on the spiritual path. It's not cut and dry. Nothing is cut and dry. And notice how the mind constantly wants to do that. It's like everything's all or nothing, right? I'm either spiritual, I'm walking on water, I'm raising the dead, or manifesting anything I want at any time, or I'm an absolute loser. I've done nothing right.
That's exactly how my mind works.
Yes. And that's what you have to pay attention to. Not this thought or that thought that to just say, I'm not going to pay attention to that thought, because as you rightly saw, it isn't really the thought, there's an underlying energy. Well, the underlying energy is this all or nothing attitude of the mind. And as you said, it brings up your ego. But remember, ego isn't arrogance. Ego is self-identification. And the mind is simply trying to create an identity on one side of that picture or another. Right? Mind doesn't have nuance. Right? The self has nuance. It sees that it's a flow. I'm neither this nor that nor both nor neither. I'm just in this constant flow. And, sometimes I feel very, very vulnerable. Sometimes I feel absolutely invincible, right? But what's the truth? The truth is I'm both. When I fully embrace my vulnerability, I become invincible. It's totally paradoxical. Well, how does that happen? It's because you're totally present with life as it is. And when you are that, you are open to discovering the you that is bigger than simply this functioning of life. You begin to discover that there's a you that is beyond all of this, a you that's aware of it, a you that is not stuck on one place or another. And that is the unlimited freedom we're seeking. And that's the freedom that I can feel vulnerable when I'm vulnerable. I've been doing this for a long time, right? I'm relatively awake. If somebody rejects me or something, or somebody puts a nasty comment on YouTube, and I get plenty of them, something gets thrown. I feel the sting, right? It's like, oh, damn, right? But I don't make anything of it. Yes, I feel vulnerable. I want everybody to like me, but I know they're not going to. So I let myself feel the sting, and in feeling the sting, I am invulnerable. I become invulnerable. I'm invincible because it does not control my life. It's just a function of life, and I'm in harmony with it. Like everything else, it's not that it's unfair that I'm feeling this, right? This is what comes. This is part of the territory. If we don't have this range of feelings, this whole range of opposites, we don't have life. Experience is nothing but the contrast of the opposites. Without it, there is no life. And what we want to do is go, yeah, I want this part of the opposite, all the good stuff, the heaven and happiness and beautiful boyfriends, but this part, no, thank you. Right? You take it all. It really taste life as it is. Oh, and it's so sweet.
GP and Susanna, I've got a question that some of us, our brains might have gone there, and I want to know if, Susanna, if this is something you do or that your friends do for you, or GP, what do we do in this situation when we say, all right, you know what, it is what it is, and then we have this piggyback statement that says, well, you know what, he's all that handsome, he probably takes forever in the bathroom, and then I couldn't get in, and he probably, won't pay as much attention to me. Like, we find that, that job was probably, I didn't want the raise because that means I'd have to work so much more. So we're talking ourselves into, is that still okay, or is that a no-no?
No, that's the same thing. Right. It's sour grapes, sweet lemons. I mean, that's been right. It's an attempt to convince ourselves it was okay. Again, it's just another attempt to not feel the vulnerability and the disappointment. That's all it is. Feel the disappointment. Yes. Right. I sure would have wished I had the opportunity to see if he takes too long in the bathroom.
Yes.
This ain't so good. I'd really love to have tasted that a bit. Like, people say, well, that opportunity got by. I don't really want that much more money. Deep down inside is, I really would like to have all this money so I could find out if what all the spiritual people say is true. Give me the $1 million and I'll find out whether or not it's going to make me happy. That's what we want, right? But again, life doesn't always work that way, But your life, what if your life was set up in such a way that it was absolutely perfect for you? That every single event was there to bring you to that point of total freedom, power, self-love, compassion, all the ideals, spiritual ideas we all actually seek. What if that is the deep desire inside of you, and life has been trying to bring you to that the whole time? It can't do that by just giving you everything you want. You get a spoiled kid.
Yes. And I do actually believe that. I do actually believe that as a general rule. I do believe that everything's working for me. And you know, with time, I can often look back and go, oh, right, if that person hadn't split up with me, I wouldn't have gone to that country. I wouldn't have met that person. I wouldn't have had that experience. And I would have hated to miss those experiences. So I know that in the long term, I will be able to look back and see why it was working for me. But in the moment, it's been challenging me a lot, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. In the moment, it just sucks, right? So be with the suckiness, right? You know, and that's okay, right? Because you don't even
I want to get down on the floor like a 3-year-old.
Yeah, well, do it.
And have a tantrum.
It won't last that long.
Yeah.
And shake my legs and scream and kick and that sort of thing. Primal scream therapy, right? I mean, that was the thing. John Lennon did it, right? So yeah, but you could use that same thing. I know at some point I would look back and all of this is going to be okay. The mind can twist that into a way of avoiding feelings too, right?
Yes.
I'm not saying this so that you'll use that as an opportunity to try to lessen the pain. I don't want to give anybody painkillers, right? I want you to feel it, right? And you find that when you feel it, truly feel it, and let it be there, two things happen. Number one, you discover you don't die, which is a very powerful insight to have. And number two, the grieving period is the shortest it can possibly be. When you totally accept the loss, an irrecoverable loss, that's grief. And if you let yourself grieve, all grief is the way it feels when the whole nervous system begins to adapt to an environment with an irrecoverable loss. Because it has to adapt in that new environment. And all of our stories and all the ideas and things we tell each other and all the avoidance of it actually postpones that process. If you completely submit to the grief, it can be over in minutes, but it won't go on for days or weeks. And some of these things, you know, I mean, I worked with one woman who had a relationship she was 50 years old. She'd been married once, and you know, there was this guy she was totally enamored with. She was in her 50s. I think I said that. And all of a sudden, one day, he just calls her up out of the blue, says, "I can't see you anymore." Hangs up, and that's it. Never saw him again. No word, no call back. It was it, gone. Now that could have devastated her for the rest of her life.
I can feel that it's devastated Suzanne already.
Yeah, no, because I was ghosted recently, and ghosting is extremely painful.
Oh, right. And the mind has a field day with that. What's he doing? What's the story about that? She actually came to my place, and we worked on it together, and it took 3 days, right? And her mind, she would keep going, but why did he do that? I said, well, there's no way we're going to know, is there? And so we tapped together on it. I used tapping with her. And I just kept her present in the feelings, kept her out of her mind, which was trying to create some kind of a spin, which would have just perpetuated it. Now, for some, I might have seemed very cruel. What do you mean? You just wanted to feeling it over and over again? But it was like an hour and a half the third day, probably about 45 minutes on the third day. It's like 2 days and an hour and a half, 45 minutes on the third day. Bam, it broke. It was over.
Oh, it's like a fever.
The grief was gone. The grief was gone. And there's still the memory, there's still a sting, but the debilitating pain was gone. The nervous system had made the adjustment.
That's
Susanna,
incredible. And I mean, that really is like what you feel, you heal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
But you have to be present. It completely depends on your presence, and the mind wants to be anywhere but present.
See, that rebellious mind. Suzanne, I'm so glad that you were able to call in and ask. And if we would love to, if you want to continue too and sharing with us, you know, how what steps you're doing or where you are with it in the group, in the Facebook group. We'd love to hear that too. And we'll invite other people to call in after the commercial that we have to sneak away to right now. But thank you so much.
By the way, it also
so
opens
much
up
for
the
having
door
me.
to an even, it opens up the door to even hunkier boy coming down the road.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I look forward to that.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Thank
Okay,
you
we'll
so
be
much.
right. You're welcome, Suzanne. We'll be right back after these commercials. Back to the flow of enlightenment with GP Walsh and me, Lisa Berry.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Even the commercials are flying today. My gosh. Oh, right. Here.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what? Ready?
What?
Now?
We're back already? Well, that just means we're having so much fun. And I do want to make an announcement to everybody who, if you would like to call in, or if you have been calling in, you're calling into the radio station, OMTimes Radio. We do have a live producer right there waiting for your call. He's going to take your call and then put you into the queue so that we can get you onto the show. And we are so happy that you are calling. We always invite your calls. The number to call in again is 202-570-7057. All right. So, we'll go on here. I just, GP, I love that Susanna did ask that question, regardless how she introduced it, like, I'm going to sound like a teenage girl, because we're coming from at every point of our life. Our minds are everywhere, and everything is important, right? There's no not important question to ask.
Well, not only that, but of course you're still a teenage girl. Don't you like that? I mean, you don't want the relationship to be, well, I'm going to be in a mature relationship now. I mean, God, screw that. I mean, I want the bushy-tail, bubbly stupidness of it, right? I don't care how.
The innocence.
I don't care what age I am. It's just totally innocent and pure, and it feels just the way it did the first time. It should be like that. And it's the mature way in which we deal with disappointment and the like, and the mature way in which we don't make that the be all and end all. That's the understanding that comes. And also the 12-year-old, the relationship would last a day or two, maybe a week tops, right? And it's on to the next.
Yeah.
We don't want that either. We want a little bit more than that. So there's a maturing of it, but that essential innocent, just rush of excitement and fun, that's got to be there. Otherwise, why bother?
Yes, yeah. Actually, that's the spark. That's a life force. I was talking about life force. I always do. Like, that's living. That's the flow. That's in the flow. Otherwise, a mature, isn't that a still pond?
Exactly. That's not what real maturity is. Maturity thinks, "Oh, I'm beyond that." No, you're not. Don't be stupid. No.
Yes,
No,
exactly.
it's just no nuance. It doesn't completely absorb you. It's a different context in which you can have the experience, and it's actually bigger and more full, right? Because it has more experience and wisdom behind it.
I love that. The full. I love that. More full. I would love to sit in the last, the only 10 minutes that we have here. I wanted to touch on something that you had said. I don't like it is accurate. And this is something that you do with your tapping, your energy techniques. And this is the coach training that you actually have out right now. And guys, if you're really interested in doing the coach training, you've got to get there ASAP because it's actually already started, but it is the prep week. But I do invite you. I'm in the course. I'm so excited. I'm preparing and we're chatting within the group and I can already, it's that flow, like the flow is going for me over here. And that's what I love about the way you do this is that you make it okay to say, I don't like it. And it's accurate and it's okay to say that, but then you help us walk through that. Can you just talk around that a little bit?
Yes. Look, whatever you're feeling, you admit you feel it. That's the truth, right? We're not trying to make the truth something abstract and out there. We're not trying to take our problems and reframe them, right? Or I'm going to visualize, I see only sunny days, that sort of thing. It's an honesty that can accept both sides of the coin. Yes, I do want this, and I'm not able to have it, right?
Oh.
Now you're in this position of total maturity. Yeah? I'm accepting my feelings. Of course we have desire. Life is desire. Without desire, life would end in about 15 minutes. Okay? The desire is what we feel is the motivation for anything. It's when we are so attached to getting the fruit of our desires that we think our happiness is a result of the desire fulfilling itself. That we get lost. And it's that simple. It's that simple. Desires come and go. They're like everything else in life. They flow and they can flow by. You may get it, you might not. If I'm attached to it, I suffer. If I'm not, there's just this feeling of that I'm in harmony now with the Tao. I'm in harmony with the way life actually is. Many seeds get planted, right? Some never sprout at all. Some become shoots, and some become full flowers and go back to seed themselves. That's like a desire. There's no guarantee that a desire has to fulfill itself. It's not up to me to decide the destiny of any desire. I'm the garden. I'm not the flower. It's growing in me, right? But the garden doesn't depend on any one flower.
Right.
It gives birth to all sorts of flowers at all sorts of different stages of all different kinds. And so when we're attached to that, right, is when we suffer. But to acknowledge it and just say, God, I really did want that. And I didn't get it. That's just a very mature acceptance of reality. And you find that in that acceptance, there's a peace. There's actually a peace underneath it, even a happiness. Right?
Yes. I'm laughing at your analogy right now because we have so much snow here and my kitty cats love to eat grass, so I have the little pack of grass kit. And, we soak the seeds and then the little sprouts come up. And, of course, my desire and belief that I was going to get this full container of cat grass, and it didn't work out.
The lawnmower, right? Yeah.
Yes. And in the end, I got about 10 little shoots that came out because I had the kit for a year. And I thought, well, you know what? He's got 10 little pieces of grass he can chew on and clean his teeth. So, I was just laughing when you were saying that. but life is desire. That was so beautiful. I think that's, life is desire. To live is that desire. And when you do the tapping, when you're tapping through and saying, yes, I don't like it, this sucks. You do advocate, is that a right word? Yeah. You do advocate saying that and not suppressing. And when you're taking them through the coach training, the training course is also just for people who they want to learn. It's not just that it's not that they have to want to become a coach. It's also just for personal as well, right? Okay.
Most of the people, that is their motivation. There's, probably maybe 20-30% are actually wanting to learn how I do it, to do it for others professionally.
Yes. So you're the coach. You're coaching yourself, and you're coaching yourself on, that you can be accurate in your statements.
It's a deep immersion in how to actually be with yourself, an understanding of the nervous system, how it functions, how it is that we're so damn hard on ourselves.
Yes.
And when we just admit what we are feeling while we're tapping, a very interesting inner environment gets created. First off, you're honest. You're not fighting it. You're not trying to reframe it. You're not in an argument with your system. So a high degree of conflict with yourself has just dropped away, right?
Right.
Simultaneously, the tapping is communicating through touch the sense of safety. So what you've now done is created an inner environment free of conflict and is safe. The nervous system detects that as a shift in the environment, and it begins to drop its defensive postures. It doesn't have to defend against you saying it shouldn't feel that. So it just feels it, and at the same time, it's feeling safe. It's not fighting anymore for what in fact it's feeling. And the war just ended. And what happens when the war ends? Everybody puts their weapons away. That's what you feel as a sense of relaxation or a sense of relief or feeling lighter. That's the nervous system dropping out of its defensive posture. And when it drops out of its defensive posture, it immediately springs to the opposite side, which is its expressive posture, which is the other point of it. The whole point of having a body and a life is for the truth of who you are to express itself in form. And it can't do that if it's always locked down, defending itself against you.
Yes. That was
I
so
shouldn't
well
be
said.
feeling that way, right?
Yes.
It's not fair.
Yeah. And it's actually why a lot of people are missing or not connecting with others, because they're so worried and judging themselves about, I'm not good enough or I'm this. And then as they defend those beliefs to themselves, they can't, as you say, drop that conflict and express and receive expression, like hear another's expression to them. And so that connection. So I love this coach training myself, because it strengthens a connection. Like, we're so tired of fighting ourselves, but do we even know that we are fighting ourselves?
No, that's the problem. And we've got all sorts of self-help and personal development things now. And here again, where I get a lot of criticism, I'm kind of the black knight of personal development. That all it does is try to force the nervous system into what the mind believes is a better way of being. And I'll get all these good thoughts, and then I'll get the life that I want. And all it does is create an enormous amount of conflict and just give the mind more weapons for suppression. You don't need them.
Oof. Yeah.
You don't need them. It knows what to do. You give it the space, it knows what to do. It will just completely shed that skin like a snake, and it'll emerge as a completely different creature. It'll start acting the way it was designed to act. Right? You take the dam away, the water's going to flow, and it's going to head to the ocean, because it knows how to get there. It doesn't need a GPS.
Yeah. That was amazing what you just said about we're giving it our mind more weapons of suppression. Oh, that was tough. That was good. Oh, you are the black knight of self-development.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Well, that's okay, because this is a much more beautiful, loving self-inquiry. Who am I is really the question we are asking here, you guys. And that's why we do the show, The Flow of Enlightenment. And we're also inviting you. I have to do all my fun invitations for everybody. So first off, I would love everybody just to either, come to the website. Go to gpwalsh.com. That's your first thing to do, because when you get there, you can get your free ebook right now of Angels in the Basement. Everybody's loving this book. I've heard so many comments already. That is right now. I think, are we going to leave it free just for another couple days at least? Because I'm just announcing it. So Now that I said that.
Yeah, we haven't decided. We haven't decided when we're going to start. We're going to jack the price up to $150.
Yeah. A whopping $4. But what? Yeah, we really.
Yes, be some huge amount. Yes.
Yes, well, but get over on the site because by getting on the list, then you can find out not only what the show topics are about, you can also make suggestions, you can see the courses, peruse the shop, the Heart Shop, and then you can also be a part of the group, which we have right now on the Facebook group, and that's GP Walsh, Spiritual Teacher, and you can get in there, and we have some fun conversations and interviews and everything, and you can get some extra support. But I just want to invite everybody. And then Satsang, I keep saying that. Satsang.
No, that's right. Satsang.
It is song.
You said it right.
Gosh, okay, there you go. Satsang every Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. So lots of ways to connect, but yeah, the first big invitation is to get onto the site and to consider taking the coach training course for yourself. I think that would be beautiful. And GP, there's our music.
That's our cue that the time whizzed by again.
It did. Well, thank you so much for helping us do the truth of what's not fair and what's fair.
Bye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye, GP. We'll see you guys next week.